Well, welcome back once more, all my intrepid vintage dirt bike loving YouTubers, and it's much appreciated to have you all back here on my Classic Dirt Bike TV YouTube channel as we continue to check out more of those iconic motocross machines from the Terry Pickering private motorcycle collection. This time round we're going to feature the second of the 5 bikes that we're going to show on my YouTube channel, so let's just check out Terry's 1980 Aprilia 125 twin shock motocrosser. Now once again, as in the previous video on the Puch 250 from 1980, this lovely Aprilia 125 from 1980 is yet again not another restoration or refurbished bike, but another brand new, unused and unmolested bike from that year. Now this machine was bought by Terry along with 4 other brand new bikes from a very private and very exclusive collector in Belgium. And once again, in this case, the engine has never even had a drop of fuel put through its virgin motor. Now naturally, Aprilia are more famous for their road racing machines, and through the years have produced some fantastic road bikes. Although in our particular case, in off-road motocross terms, this was just about Aprilia's last chance saloon as far as motocross bike manufacturing were concerned. Now Aprilia made their motocross debut at the 1976 World Championship on a 125, with their best ever result being a 5th place in the 1979 season with their rider Corrado Maddy. Although after this they then focused their efforts on the Moto Grand Prix circuit, where they enjoyed a bit more racing success. But nevertheless, in our particular case, this beautiful 1980 125 is an exceptional machine, and it's very hard to think that this bike is in this condition after 40 years. Now of course, in 1980 Aprilia never had their own engine to put into their 125 motocross bike chassis, so opted to go for this Italian manufactured Hyro engine. Now our particular 125 engine, as you can see, is fitted with a quite modern Mikuni carburetor, which was available of course at the time in 1980. A very compact and very quick little motor, this Italian made a Hyro 125. Now the Hyro engine manufacturer sold these engines to many different motorcycle manufacturers, including Ancelotti and Cagiva, and of course in our particular case Aprilia. Now Hyro motors were also used by Alan Clues on his British built CCMs. That was in their 1979 and 1980 CCM models. Now Hyro also went on to develop a 320cc Trials engine with a 6-speed gearbox that was actually being developed by the legendary British Trials rider Sammy Miller. But these were very compact and very quick and very reliable little engines, these Italian made Hyro motors. That was of course up until they ceased production in 1986. But our particular engine is a little single-cylinder 2-stroke 125 piston port engine. No reed valve as such in these engines at this time, 1980. I think it was a year or two later that they started introducing reed valves to these motors, but nevertheless a very compact and very quick and reliable little Italian engine. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this engine has never ever even been started since it was manufactured way back in 1980. Now, as you would expect on an Italian motocross machine, Italian-made Marzocchi forks on these bikes. Of course, these Marzocchi forks were used on a multitude of different types of motocross machines during the 1980s. Very good suspension systems, and certainly adequate for their time period. And as you would expect, the bike is still sporting its original wheels and original tyres from back in the day. Now, back in the day, of course, these bikes were fitted with these Pittubo Casa rear suspension systems. Not a name that I'm familiar with, but certainly a very rare type of rear suspension system. And as you would expect, these are the factory fitted shocks that were fixed to the bike when it left the factory in 1980. Now, these little adjusters on the bottom of the shocks, I can only imagine that these are for some kind of dampening or preload adjustment on the shocks. Very radical and very unique. Now, once more, as you would expect from a bike that's never even been started, let alone ridden, the exhaust system is ding and dent free. No damage whatsoever on this bike, which is what you would expect from a bike that's never even been started, let alone been ridden on a racetrack. Now, the tailpipe, of course, no carbon deposits on the tailpipe, which is another good indication that this bike has never even been fired up, let alone been ridden on any kind of motocross racing circuit. Now, this swing arm is certainly a substantial swing arm for such a little bike of a 125cc, but this swing arm looks like it's a sand cast alloy swing arm, as opposed to other machines who have their alloy swing arms polished, but nevertheless a very purposeful and very strong looking swing arm for a 125cc machine. And once again, Aprilia stamping their name near the chain adjusters on the rear of this lovely swing arm. Now, of course, many manufacturers of motocross machines were all using plastics as their material of choice to hold the fuel in their motocross machines, and of course Aprilia were no different in that respect, and also employed plastic as the material of choice to hold the fuel in their 125 motocross machine. A very nice, very comfortable looking seat for a little 125, and not had much use, of course, with this bike never having ever been ridden. So as you can see, the seat is absolutely immaculate, the same as it left the factory in 1980. Now, all the original plastics, as you can see, are all still in as brand new condition, and the owner that had this bike in storage for 40 years must have taken really good care of this bike, because there's absolutely no signs of any corrosion or furring of the metal parts on this bike. This bike just looks like it did from the day it was made. Now the controls, of course, are all the originals from that period. Not a Gunnar Gasser, but Aprilia's own factory fitted gasser on this particular bike. It does look to me a little bit cheap and tacky. Maybe if this bike was sold back in the day, then possibly another rider would maybe have changed it for a more higher quality gasser throttle grip. Now, one of the other rare features on this particular bike is this bike is still sporting its original Preston Petty front and rear mudguards. These of course are not period copies. These are originals from back in the day, so that is very rare to see a 40-year-old bike with it still having its original Preston Petty plastic still fitted to it. But then again, this is not a run-of-the-mill 125 motocross racer. This is a very unique and very rare little 125 from 1980. And for me personally, I never even knew that Aprilia made a motocross bike of any description, let alone this 125 from 1980. But then again, you learn something brand new every day, and I'm just happy that I came across this beautiful machine, and I hope you've enjoyed having this very quick look at what is essentially a timepiece from the 1980s. But of course, this is only the second bike of 5 that we are going to feature from the Terry Pickering Classic Dirt Bike Collection. And coming up next is this beautiful Italian-made TGM 125 bike from 1981. So please continue to subscribe to my channel in order that you don't miss out on seeing these very unique machines. This video was brought to you in association with WorldSport, the world's #1 supplier for all your off-road and leisure sportswear. Just visit their online website for more information.